Hey guys, it's Sebastian back with another video, and today we're going to talk about the magic of anxiety. So last week I talked about the magic of depression and that being able to go into your past, sending your soul into a past that you've already experienced, and being able to take on those demons, take on those situations that you may not have felt safe during that time, to collect pieces of your soul to bring it back to the present. Well, that magic is also going to help you in the reverse effect. And so let's break it down again. So you got mind, body, spirit, like the classic, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, whatever. It's the same concept. So you have the adult, the child, and then you have your ego or your spirit. I like to call it the mind, the body, and the heart, because mind, body, heart. Right? All these things are necessary for you to be able to empower what I would call your soul, your energy, your divinity. I mean, there's a lot of terms you could use for this same process, right? But essentially, what it comes down to is that when you're in the moment, when you're living mindfully, when you're living in the present, you are able to activate your soul energy, your abilities. When you're too extreme into depression or too extreme into anxiety, you're going to lose the ability to access your divinity. You'll start, again, worrying about the past, worrying about the future, and you can reach levels where if you're too worried or too behind, you're actually going to lose your ability to speak. You're going to lose your voice. Because when you lose your voice, when you lose your talking mechanism, it's the inability to connect with the spirit anymore. You could even say you have a broken heart. A broken heart would take away the ability to connect with yourself. You lose parts of your personality. You can almost see it when when you're having a conversation with somebody and they're physically there, but they're not there. And so it's like I'm talking to somebody, but I can tell that like they're distracted. They're not really in the present. And so really it comes down to aligning, staying in the middle, staying balanced, so that you're able to physically and mentally be in a place where you can sustain consciousness, like a healthy state of consciousness and awareness. So why do we have anxiety, and what is the benefit of anxiety? Well, it's interesting. One of the things anxiety affects is it affects the adult brain, the stress brain. Sometimes I feel we mix anxiety with the word stress. I like to use the word stress because stress makes more sense to me. Anxiety to me seems like more for children because it has to do with the feeling than a thought. But they've been mixed up so much in our society that I'm just going to explain it through anxiety. And so anxiety, or the adult brain, affects the nervous system. And that's why people that have like anxiety disorders will feel it in their neck and their shoulder and their back. So right here in this area, this is where the central nervous system is. You get nerve problems like fibromyalgia as an example. I believe that the disorders where your immune system is attacking itself, like I forgot what they're called, but like immune deficiency type of disorders, I believe that they're connected with an over anxious mind that depletes the body over time. And that's why people get like joint pain and elbow pain. So essentially, the reason why we have the ability to look into the future, which is something that children don't really think of in the same way, it reminds me of that scene from Doctor Strange where he's sitting there and he's like calculating every single possible future reality. And what you'll notice is that his body's like shaking as he's doing it. And that's because he's living all of these situations in that moment. So while he's sitting there shifting, he's actually taking on the experiences of future possibilities in that moment. So again, he's using karma, chakra, divinity, energy. It's all the same. He's using that to predict the future. I would say that oracles would do this stuff. Shamans would do this stuff. It's the same thing as predicting different possible outcomes, and all of those different predictions are going to affect the current. And so whenever you put your soul into a different time place, like into a different section or place in reality, it's going to affect the present state. And so whatever you're experiencing during this, transition from the soul to the future, all the stuff that you're feeling during that time, just like in the Matrix, it's going to affect the present. So if I'm imagining different scenarios, if I'm imagining, like, I don't know, like someone get mad at me or something happening or something bad, some catastrophe happening, all that energy is affecting the current state. And so really what it comes down to is when you allow that energy to affect you, it drains you over time. It literally costs your soul ability, like energy, to be able to predict the future. And it's not like you can just do it automatically either. You have to understand the mechanism, or you have to understand the possibilities of things that can technically happen in the future, and have a really good understanding of the way the world works. So it takes a bit of discipline, and it also takes the desire for understanding to push yourself in the future. And so you're going to push yourself in the future, and you're going to start to experience things that are happening. Now, the benefit of this is that obviously you can prepare for a future situation that hasn't happened. So if you see like a potential problem, then you can use your current state to optimize, whatever it is that you need, so that if that situation was to come, you're already prepared. Now, the problem with this is that a lot of people will put their soul into a future situation, and that's where they like stay there. So people that constantly battle with anxiety, people that constantly battle with stability in their nerves, these are people that are being impacted by their inability to understand the mechanism of anxiety. And so they keep putting themselves into futures to worry, but they don't actually change anything in their present. They just get worried, they catastrophize. They don't use it as an ability to be able to process and understand like what they can do to change. And that's why confidence is important. When you have confidence and you're able to predict the future, then you can use that confidence to change your current reality, and you can alter, different things that you're doing now to be able to achieve that degree of consistency, right? So when that problem shows up, you're able to handle it because you've already been prepared, right? Emotionally, physically, spiritually, you've been preparing for this situation, so it doesn't bother you as much as if it hits you left field. So the benefit of, or the magic of anxiety is to be able to predict the future and change current perceptions to change possible outcomes. You could, some people will get not memories, but dreams at night. They'll experience visions. They'll experience scenarios where they're seeing things, like future outcomes. And again, that to me is divinity. We have terms for deja vu. We have terms for like having certain dreams or nightmares. And all these different things just essentially go back to your spirit being able to go beyond this physical reality and understand outcomes that you may not understand if you're not able to use your spirit in a way where you can push into other realities. And so, yeah, think of anxiety as a benefit. It's a tool that you can use to predict the future. It's a tool that you can create, become an oracle, essentially. Become a predictor of outcomes. And so, yeah, go ahead and push that soul into the future. Understand what's happening so you can prepare today and enjoy your guys' magic. Take it easy. Hey guys, it's Sebastian back with another video. And today we're going to talk about AI. Ooh, the big topic of today's world. And I believe it's very important to look at how AI affects the brain, how AI is going to influence the way we view the future, and some of my perspectives on what's happening in the world. As some of you already know, I'm I do believe we pretty much already live in a very matrix-like society, to the sense that a corporation like McDonald's would be a machine. I mean, without people in a McDonald's, it pretty much is a machine. There's a bunch of levers and buttons that need to be operated by the human body. So humans literally go here and they use the levers, use the systems to churn out product from money. So like someone pays you, you churn the levers like a factory, and you churn out product. Now, the thing about this is you use your human battery, you go home, you recharge, you come back, and the process repeats itself. And so now what they're trying to do with AI, essentially is, again, continue to dumb down and take away people's ability to think for themselves. Like they're doing brain scans now, where when you look at somebody using AI compared to somebody who didn't use AI to do research, the way the person that uses AI, their brain literally doesn't light up. And so what you're going to see is people using AI as a system to pretty much circumvent learning. And when you don't learn, like, yes, do you have like an end result and you have information? Yeah, you do. But you really don't have the fundamental understanding of why that information is. Like the critical thinking part of like how to get to this perspective. Like, how did I get here? Right? You know how you have like an answer of like, here you are, but the how did I get here is not so clear and consistent. And it's, heavily based on bias and, like whatever anecdotal information they can find, right? Because whoever's programming the program itself, like the AI, they come with flaws, right? Depending on the resources they find, depending on the way that it's programmed, there are inherent biases in this information, right? And so it could be cutting out valuable information because you're not able to see that perspective, right? But beyond the point, what you're going to see is people start dumbing down in the sense that they are lazy to find information. They're more willing to just accept passive information. So critically and fundamentally, they're not going to learn much about what's going on because they're not using the tools. Now, on another side of this, I have to bring up the elephant in the room, that the education systems as they stand aren't really motivating for wanting to learn anyway. So I can understand why people are valuing AI versus a real conversation. They're valuing the tool of AI because a lot of the education system has been a slap in the face back to the people that are in the education system, where, again, we're not really educating people in the same way where it's like they're advancing their career, they're advancing their understanding and insight of the different belief systems that exist. So when they're in a field, right, even like as a therapist, like there are certain classes in general ed that we're taking, there's certain topics that we talk about that really are not that relevant to our future in this environment, our future as clinicians, where it's like, yes, like, are certain histories important to understand? Oh yeah, like, for sure, we should definitely understand the fundamentals. But there was a lot of topics and a lot of things that I learned in college that I don't use on a daily basis. Why? Because when I'm in therapy, no one's asking me, hey, what's the origin of this like modality? What they're really looking for, does this work? Now, should there be a group of people that could be, historians for mental health, and should they be more aware of, the topics of mental health when it comes to like understanding the history? Yes, authors and people that are historians, in the sense that like that's their job. Their job is to know about the past. But why is everybody's job to know that? Why is everybody's job to try to know all these things that really don't apply to them in the long run? And it feels like wasted energy. And so when people are feeling like their energy is being wasted, they're more likely to just find these alternatives to not want to waste their energy, right? It's like, what's the point of researching this topic if truly it's not going to influence my life that much? And so they're more willing to use tools like AI to circumvent learning because they don't feel like they're learning anything anyways. They're just trying to get to the end. A kind of an example of this would be like, they're in the game World of Warcraft, one of the games I truly love and played since I've been a kid. They have these things called bots, or like essentially like AI programs or, some kind of like program that will run the game for you and run around and collect things and do things, and pretty much what you would call an autopilot, right? Now, why do people use this? Well, they're trying to either make extra cash in the game, or they're trying to circumvent the boring part. They want to get to the end game, right? They want to get to the experience where they get to play the real game. But in creating this mechanism, they'll get to the end game and they won't know how to play their character. They won't feel a sense of accomplishment, like they didn't do the grind. It starts to take away people's efforts towards like achievements. So it's like, oh, cool, you did that. Wow, you probably just used a bot to grind out money to then buy the thing that you wanted. So the accomplishment and the sensation that you feel essentially gets watered down because you didn't do it. It was this robot that did it for you. And so even in a video game, it really diminishes the quality and the achievements that one obtains while playing a game. Because again, prior to that, you would do the grind on your own, do everything by yourself, like have to sit there doing the time, right? So if you were somebody with a lot of gold or money in this case, it was like, dang, you really worked for that. You must have really put in some effort, right? And so when you had all these items, when you had all these abilities, when you had all these things, in the first rendition of the game before botting was the thing, you would be like, wow, that guy really worked. But once botting became a thing, people started to be like, I don't believe you. I don't think that you worked on that truly. It really reduced the quality of the overall gaming experience, where things that you once, were proud of and people, you were like, wow, that guy really worked it. Now you almost had a sense of skepticism. You almost had a sense of like, is this real? You'd see characters running around, but they weren't real characters. Even like the way AI is affecting our political system, where you'll have all these fake profiles that are popping up and they seem like real people, but when you just do a couple of clicks in there, you realize they're not. But it's creating this false narrative that there are people out there that have way more support because of the numbers you're seeing in social media based on bots and AI and all this stuff that aren't real. And so now it's starting to create a very, strange barrier between what is reality and what is not, because now you'd have to do extra research, and people aren't going to do the research to try to understand what's AI not. AI could be a very effective tool for ascension, right? So it's like, what if AI was like, hey, 50% of these are bots? Like, truly at the core of what it should be doing, if it was actually telling you the truth, it'd be a great tool. It could help you siphon a lot of bullshit real quick, like these are all fake accounts, this is it. But no, that's not what it's being used for. It's being used for the fake accounts. It's being used for, different ways to circumvent, difficult tasks. Why? So that people remain ignorant. Again, just because you have something that can do something for you doesn't mean you fundamentally understand. I see a lot of guys creating these like AI videos, and they have these like mini stories, and they're really cool looking. But fundamentally, AI doesn't know how to like re-render that and reprogram it. And so this is where programming comes into play. When you're a programmer and you're a creator, you know the concept of like how to edit things, how to change, because you have the whole power with you. But when it comes to AI, you don't have that same power. You don't have that same ability to manipulate it, because you fundamentally don't know how it works. Yes, you put a prompt in. Yes, it created a scenario for you, but you fundamentally don't know how it works. So as a collective, things are going to get a lot more challenging. Reality is just going to start blending. Intelligence is going to start falling. And people who seem like they know what they're talking about may actually not know what they're talking about. And that's the problem. They might talk a lot and seem like they're smart, but fundamentally, they don't actually know what's going on. And so that's the problem we're dealing with, guys, when it comes to AI. A progressive dumbing down of the human race. Take it easy. I'll see you guys in the next one. Later. Hey everybody, it's Sebastian back with another video, and today we're going to talk a little bit about positive and negative energy, but mainly we're actually going to explore how positive energy, I would consider it masculine energy, and negative energy, I would consider it feminine. The first thing that we need to understand about these two things, though, is that this isn't like positive and negative as in good and bad. This is more like positive and negative for a battery. or like positive, negative for like a stereo system where it needs the positive, negative energies to make the speaker move, right? So don't take it as like men are positive, women are negative. No, that's not what we're talking about. That's not what I'm talking about. It's actually just this idea, this concept of magnetism, right? Where you have to have an opposite to have a balance, right? They need to balance each other out. So the idea that, men have like masculine energy is positive, feminine energy is negative. One of these ideas that came to me was I was thinking about, music that women tend to listen to, and kind of like the difference between, female-driven and male-driven artists, and kind of what the differences are. And one of the common themes that kept coming up for me is that artists that are geared towards females tend to have a very particular type of voice style. And they tend to be, more on the higher end, right? Like The Weeknd, Justin Bieber. You can look at Prince, Michael Jackson back in the day. Like, there's always this kind of angelic or higher tone voice. There's more of a flow state. So you tend to see that artists that are geared towards women tend to have a more flow to the way they sing. Whereas artists that are more geared towards men tend to be sharper, harder, and so they tend to be rough or direct. You could see things like hardcore music, like Winds of Plague or Job for a Cowboy would be some examples of like harder music. There may be some voices where it's like more dominating, more aggressive. There's a song by 50 Cent, Many Men, or like even like somebody like Eminem when he's singing something like Lose Yourself, right? Very direct, very rough, very hard. So there tends to be a demographic for even the way the music is played out. And if you think of the frequencies that are being exhibited, well, there's some commonalities in the way they exist. What they attract. There's music that I like, for example, like metalcore, that may have a variety of both sides. It may have that roughness to it, but also has that flow state. And there's literally two different voice styles at times in these bands. So that variety also kind of contributes to this idea that there's this flow state, or there's these two sides. So let's think of it a little more. So masculine energy has a lot to do with the positive movement, right? So it's like, I got to get up and go. It's this pressure that someone feels that they have to complete tasks. It's like, you got to man up and just get shit done. You got to go and like work on yourself. You have to get up. And so it's a lot more of like moving, right? And working towards objectives that I may not have the interest in doing, but I know are in my best interest. So I may go to the DMV, I may go get my groceries, I may fix my car, I may work on the house project that's been sitting there and I keep telling myself I'm going to work on. So that is what I would call that masculine energy, that need to, toughen up and get things done and get off your ass and just get out there and start doing stuff, right? Masculine energy. Feminine energy is going with the flow, like feeling out the moment, like trying to see, what's going to attract me in my day. Where will my day take me? More kind of like relaxing, enjoying. And so there's these two opposites, right? There's that work, and there's that relax and play kind of state. This also affects even the way we date, where I have this idea that, when a guy wants to talk to a girl, he's going to try to use that feminine energy, that sweetness, to try to sweeten her up. Like, oh man, like, you look wonderful today. Or like, wow, like, I'd love to take you out sometime. Hey, how's life going? Tell me about your experiences. And hey, I'd like to get to know you better. Or like, what's up, girl? Damn, girl, you looking good today. Like that, again, that flow state, right? Whereas a guy might be, the masculine energy is like, yo, when we gonna go on a date or something? Are we gonna go out or not? Like, what are you doing? Like, are we doing something? Like, is this gonna happen? Which is a lot more aggressive, right? A lot more goal oriented. Which again may be great if I'm talking to my friend, right? Hey, man, when are we going to that park? When are we going to go to that thing? When are we going to that event, right? Like, more direct versus, hey, you look so good today. Are we going somewhere? He going to be like, what did you tell me? What's wrong with you? Why are you talking to me like that? So masculine, feminine energy. We need both of these to balance out, right? If we don't work on our masculine energy, our positive energy, then we're going to have so much energy inside built up that we're not going to be able to enjoy or relax. We're not going to feel disciplined enough to move forward. When you look at the feminine energy, again, if I'm not finding fulfillment, I'm not enjoying myself, I'm just going to stay in that negative space, right? So I'm going to stay in that low energy. So these are important things to know because this is going to affect a lot of the relationships that you're in now and relationships that you will be in. You also see, like I said, if someone tends to be on the more feminine side, they're usually lacking some sense of stability, right? They're lacking a sense of, urgency. If someone's too much into their masculine side, they're probably lacking a sense of relaxation, lacking a sense of going with the flow. So these are two very important energies to keep balanced, right? One way to look at why this is important, if we look at divinity and we talk about auras, right? So that aura that people experience, that frequency, that energy, people just give off an aura, right? They're actually talking about the magnetic aura that comes off of our heart as human beings, where we literally create a magnetic field around us, which is why you can tell when someone's around you. You can feel their energy. So you have the positive state and then you have the negative state. If you're not taking care of these two states, then you're going to lose your aura. That energy field that people talk about that they can feel around you, you start to lose the strength of this aura, making you more susceptible to other people, commentary, feedback, their energy, because your force field isn't reflecting enough. So things are starting to get in. Similar to the way, we have the ozone to help reduce the radiation of the sun. Well, when the ozone is being impacted, when it's being reduced, well, that makes us more susceptible to the rays of the sun to affect us, right? This same phenomenon takes place inside of us. We all experience this idea of like, hey, there's a positive and negative energy. So by sustaining that need to be productive and stress and sustaining your need to find fulfillment in a balanced state actually helps increase that aura that you have, that magnetic field at its highest capacity, where again you have the highest degree of influence on others while also have the highest degree of regulation on yourself, which is why your aura is so large. So I recommend that we take into account we have both energies. We need to be masculine. We need to be feminine. We need to understand the balance of the two, right? Sometimes we're going to have to get our life together and get work done and get things done and not be able to enjoy life as much. Increase, that rate of, strength and outcomes and determination and focus. And then other times we need to activate the need to chill, the need to relax, the need to enjoy, the need to find fulfillment. Think of yourself, especially if you're a guy, as a bird that needs to dance to get the attraction of their partner, right? Which is, again, using that feminine energy. So that's what I got for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed the topic. If you need anything else, let me know, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Again, balance out that positive and negative energy so that you can have fulfillment. There's this whole idea that feminine and masculine has to do with genders is less relevant and more to do with the energies that exist in all humans that we need to balance out. All right, guys, take it easy. I'll see you. Hey, guys, Sebastian back with another video. And today I want to talk a little bit about some spiritual topics. Specifically, I want to go a little further in explaining what is the spirit, what is the soul, kind of helping people understand these concepts and make a little more, connection in their life so they can live a little more purposeful, one could say, right? So really what it comes down to is, all of us live in this 3D realm, what we call, the universe or Earth or whatever you want to call this place. And this place has been programmed to some extent. Just the way the atoms spin, the way that things formulate. It's very systematic. They all do it very, much the same way. So there are certain laws to this universe that exist. And we live within this 3D realm, right? Physically existing here. However, our soul, our connection to this world, to this physical world, the thing that, helps people make an inanimate object come to life, right? Start to literally exist on its own, right? That energy, that connection that you have, isn't from this realm. That's from a different, you could say, dimension. You could say a different line of existence, a different reality. So there's this connection between what we could say is heaven or the spiritual realm or the ether, similar to the way you could say that the matrix is coded. So when they go into the matrix, right, there is a difference in where their existence is, their soul, in comparison to where their physical body is. So there's a change in this, in a exchange happening here. So that's the basics of the premise, is that this physical realm that we're in, this is like, again, being in like a video game in your computer, right? This environment has been programmed just as much as the environment in Zelda has been programmed, right? There's only certain ways you can jump. There's only certain ways you can use items. There's only certain ways you can use certain abilities. Like, there are laws that exist within the frequency of the game. And the same thing is happening to us. There are laws that we exist under that are out of our control, but they are universal laws that we follow, right? In this, again, 3-dimensional realm within this universe. So this has created a system where we have the physical part and then we have the spiritual part. What this comes down to is a good way to kind of like understand the differences between the physical and the spiritual world. I like to say is like law and ethics. So I like to say that law is the physical part of us, right? We write laws for what we can physically do, and ethics is for what we can spiritually do, right? So ethics is something that your soul is being put on the line for, while like laws are more that your physical is being put on the line for, right? Something may not be physically illegal, but it could be spiritually, right? It could be hurtful in the spiritual realm, which is why things like hate speech are considered types of speech that are not protected, right? Because hate speech, the idea of hate speech is to inflict pain on somebody's soul, right? So the idea that I'm going, and like, or even like, we could say verbal abuse, right? What is verbal abuse? Verbal abuse is the idea that you can hurt somebody's soul. Like, you can inflict long-lasting pain on somebody's soul. Even the idea of, when we were talking about like parents and stuff and their kids, so that the parent letting out these words can cause physical, well, actually emotional damage, not physical, sorry, emotional damage that surpasses physical, right? So like the emotional damage they're receiving can be long lasting because you're affecting the spirit, and the spirit doesn't heal the same way that the body does, right? If you want to heal your spirit, you have to actively change the way you perceive reality. While physically, it takes a lot longer to heal certain wounds because, but it's more of an automated system, so you don't really have to think about the way your body heals itself. Your body pretty much is just going to heal itself. While in the spiritual realm, you have to actively be healing that part. Yes, time could heal some of it. Theoretically, you can, avoid or block or dismiss some of the things that have happened to you in the spiritual realm. But the spiritual realm requires active work to change, versus like the physical realm, where again, it kind of like heals on its own to some extent. Yes, there are times you can definitely, work on healing yourself a little better, right? Depending on what medications you take, depending on how you set up the healing process. Like if you're if you broke your arm or using, some kind of cast or something. So there's a lot of ways you can kind of like heal the body to improve it, right? But the spiritual realm is different. That requires a lot of active work on self to understand and heal that, again, whatever you want to call that realm of existence, the ether side of us. It takes a lot longer, and it takes a lot of active care to change the way our spirit interacts with the trauma that we received. One of the key ways that I say people would heal the spirit is you have to heal it with what I would call love. So you have to be able to love yourself more than the bad words that were inflicting the pain on you in the first place, right? So when you learn how to build up your confidence, build up your spiritual state, build up your willpower, and you can sustain that, that is what's going to help you heal through those traumas that you have in the spiritual realm. So let's break down the spirit a little further too. So there's a difference between your soul and your spirit, okay? So your soul is the connection that you have with the other side of existence, or the ether, and your heart, right? So your soul is the thing, that the mechanism, right, that's being attached to your heart, which again is like your person, who you are, right? Your soul. So that's the mechanism. Now, what I would call a spirit is the energy that you produce because you have a soul, right? So spirit is the functionality of energy coming out of us. Or you call it willpower, spirit, right? When you don't have spirit, because willpower is another word for it. So willpower, spirit, same thing. What it comes down to is this is a type of energy that you're producing that you can actively use to manipulate the things around you. So spirit is the thing that people are always trying to get from you, right? The afterlife wants your soul, theoretically, right? People here on earth want your spirit. They want your time, energy, and attention. They want you to give up your magic. Again, magic is time, energy, and attention. They want you to give up your spirit so that they can consume it, right? Because they don't have access to your soul, right? So even like things like the devil or whoever, they can't actually access your soul from the 3D realm. And so the closest thing they can get to that here is that you are actively giving your soul away by giving them your spirit, right? So your soul, again, is the connection that you have with the physical realm. And because you have this connection, you start producing spirit. And the production of spirit is your power, your energy. And depending on how you utilize it, it's going to depend on the value system that it has, your capabilities, like a lot of things, right? Because again, you're making a physical object and you're animating it, right? You're able to make the unanimated, the unalive, actually alive, which requires, again, willpower and spirit to activate, right? You have to be able to willingly want to change and adapt. So when it comes down to it, you have your soul, which is the thing that connects you from the ether to the physical realm, right? That's you as a person, like your individuality. And then you have spirit. And spirit is the power that you get from your soul. It's the ability that you get to talk. It's the ability that you get to change your environment around you. It's the ability to, again, help others and provide them with a part of your energy and what creates value in your life. So that spirit is a necessity for creation and activation in this world. So take care of your soul, appreciate your soul, appreciate who you are so that you get more spiritual power. And the more that you connect with yourself, the more spirit you'll have to use in this world to make it the way you need to for your best outcomes. Alright guys, take it easy. I'll see you in the next one later. Hey guys, Sebastian back with another video. And today I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about spirituality. Specifically like how some of the terminology may be misinterpreted, or how some of these things could be provided some extra context so that you can apply them, use them, understand them more, especially throughout your day-to-day life. One of the first ones that really comes to mind is the idea of using God's name in vain. And this idea really comes down to this. there's this idea of like fake Christians or like people that use something like their belief systems to empower themselves over others, to invalidate others. So what they're doing essentially is they're using their faith, they're using their belief system to then take away or reduce other people's like ability to, stand up for themselves, or you're taking away people's like their own perspective. So you're countering their points, right? But you're using, again, the Lord's name in vain in the process, because what God would want us to do, or the universe, is it wants us to connect on a deeper level with people. And when you use your religion to invalidate others, you're actually doing the opposite of what the universe wants. The universe wants us to be connected, not separated. So the more that you use, your Christian belief system to support the bigotry, or to talk down to others or invalidate others, it's actually quite opposite of what the higher purpose and power would want. This process, in my perspective, has been perpetuated by religious establishments. This idea of having a power dynamic, for example, when you have like the king who has been elected by God to be in that position, right? So when you have these tier systems, then you have incentives for using the Lord's name in vain. Because the reality is there shouldn't be tier systems, in the sense that all the wealth goes up here and all the rest goes down here is just the basics. That's not how the world's supposed to operate. It's supposed to be a communal effort where no one's really greater than anyone else, and we kind of, as a team, as a humanity, work together to enjoy life. But you see a lot of people will say things like, I am a believer, I believe in God, but they don't actually live the principles of the discipline. They don't actually believe in being good people to those around them. They don't believe in the belief system that you're supposed to be giving, just like the provider is God is, right? So God provides you with information, right? Because that's what existence is. Everything we're receiving is information. So God is the ultimate giver. That is how it works. It's a light that just gives and gives and gives. It's the closest, or the most rational thing to think about it is like when you have unconditional love. So unconditional love would be another form or another insight in what God is providing, which is similar to the sun. The sun doesn't ask for anything, but it's definitely giving. So God is a giving light. And in order for something to give, it needs something that can receive. And so there's this paradox now. If I'm a giver, I need a receiver. But if I give somebody something and they're receiving it, then all of a sudden they're not going to appreciate it if they'd never suffered, or don't know they don't understand why this information is good for them. So they also have to have some kind of trials and tribulations so they can appreciate the energy they're being provided. So this is like multi-layered, right? Now, nowhere in there were there like rules about what cloth you can wear, or what sexual preference you have to have. So there's like nothing about that in the actual belief system of how the greater source operates, how God operates. And that's when you're using God's name in vain. When you are perpetuating religious fundamentalism, things that are man-made, not God-made, not the universe laws, right? The universal laws, but the laws made by man, that is the idea of using God's name in vain. That is the idea that you're taking a pure system, you're taking a belief system, you're taking the collective good, right? And then you are imposing your belief system on others, imposing control mechanisms on others. And this is how the process works. So when we use the Lord's name in vain, that's taking away our power, because God wouldn't want that. He would want you to connect with others, or they, whatever you want to call it. They would want to connect with others. They want to be good, authentic, right? As we know, there's 4 layers of existence. There's the rock, which is physical state. There's the plant, which is physical and growth state. There's the animal, which is physical. There's growth, and there's survival. And then there's the humans. There's the physical, there's the growth, there's the survival, and then there's the conscious state, the experience, right? So now you're not just surviving, you're thriving. And you could say, like, really explore consciousness. And so human beings, being at the highest level of consciousness that, can really exist in this planet, the ability to reach those higher levels of consciousness, this is a problem because we're not appreciating our conscious state when we close ourselves off to information. One of the things that a lot of different religious belief systems does is it wants to cut you off from other belief systems. It wants you to dislike other belief systems. One of the things about really connecting with spirituality is you appreciate all belief systems, in the sense that you look for the commonalities in the world, because that's how you see the higher power connects or communicates. It's not so much that it's blind, it's like bluntly there, right? Like, we're right here. It's more that, like one of those pictures when you're really close and it's hard to tell what it is, but like the further you get, the more that everything makes sense, like the more that you can see the picture. That's how God would work. It's not so much that there's like this really clear picture of like what it is. It's more that the more you step back, the more you realize it's all connected. Like, I'm sure if I zoom into anything that's like a shape, at some point you're going to be like, what is this? Essentially what we're doing is we're taking a step back to see how everything's connected. And so whatever's connected in all the different belief systems, whatever is the common ground, that's going to be the reality. That's going to be the presentation of God or the higher power. It's going to show itself in mysterious ways. Because the idea is that it only allows people to access it who are willing enough to sit with life and see the answers that are in front of them. This is like playing a video game and there's like a locked box somewhere, and you have to know how to figure out the code. Like, you gotta know, like, oh, if I do this and I see this number and I do this and I read this and I've put all these together, I open up this box. So sometimes life can be that way, that you're not quite sure what is going on, like what this is gonna lead to, or what's gonna come of this. And that's the point, because you know everything's gonna be okay, and when you see the signs, they're all just gonna make sense. Alright guys, that's it for today. Remember, careful with using the Lord's name in vain. Appreciate your existence. Don't use your religion to be a bigot and put other people down. And if you truly want to understand God, you have to start cutting out all the man-made things that they say God said. Because God doesn't talk, God's a feeling. So when people say God told me, it's really their feelings, it's not their voice. God's not up here, God's down here. Hey guys, it's Sebastian back with another video, and today I want to talk to you guys about different words, different ways that you can see that there's a lot of correlation with spirituality in our everyday life, and a lot of words that we use that people really don't even like realize what they're really saying to themselves, really. So it's like, there are certain programmings that you see within society, and it's just things that we do, like automatic, right? Like things that we just have something in us that makes it feel like that's the word we should use. Like, this is comfortable for me. And I always say, like, one of them, it's like, it's really funny. Even though if you could be atheist, whatever, and people will still say, oh my God, like God, oh God, right? Like there is something about referring to God or referring to this thing, whatever, the word that it means, right? And it literally is part of our daily life, right? It's just something that people just say. They just, without even really thinking, it just comes out, okay? There's a lot of words that are reflective of the spiritual life that exists within all of us that we don't recognize. Some of these other terms might be like, that they gave me a weird vibe, a vibration, okay? You have to think that as human beings, we are frequency, okay? Your heart literally produces different types of energy. You create positive energy, your stress energy up here, right? You create your negative energy, your depressive energy down here. So this is also why they call it bipolar. Bipolar. Two polarities. So you have, I'm up, manic, let's go. Woo, woo, woo. Positive energy, right? And then, whatever, I'll work on it tomorrow. Negative energy. Bipolar. All right? And when we have these different things and understand that, okay, you're an electromagnetic, biomagnetic field, whatever you want to call it, and you resonate with people. Yeah, that resonates with me. What's resonating? It's a frequency, It's, oh yeah, like, I feel like when I'm around you, it just feels right. The vibration just feels right. The energy just feels right. There's other words that you can look into. For example, enlightenment, the inlight, the light within, right? So, enlightened, you have to turn the light on by connecting the polarities. That's you get the inlight, right? So there's a lot of ways that you just talking, right? Lightheaded. The reason why you get lightheaded is because you're diffusing consciousness and you're reactivating the emotional state to connect with the frequencies of the universe. Okay? So that's why, right? You gotta turn me on, right? Again, turn on the light, right? That's a turn off. You turn the light off. So all these different phrases, all these different belief systems go back to talking about light and dark, right? Something's on and off, right? The light is the light being on. And here's the thing. When you have light and darkness, okay? Light wins every time because light, when it exists, it's going to brighten. Darkness is the absence of light, which is why the light's turned off inside. Yeah, I feel like my light's turned off because it's literally the light. It's literally the frequency of energy. It's turned off, right? And so this is where it becomes interesting because, again, terminology, words are very important and they explain a lot of the world. There are things that, again, phrases people use day to day that they don't realize what it's really saying, right? Like, I feel drained. That's a frequency. You can drain power. Okay? I feel empowered. Power, right? Electricity, energy, frequency, power. It's all the same, right? So, once you understand that people are frequency, that we literally live within a world that connects with each other, same, again, like, if you were to stop everything, okay, freeze everything, nothing would exist. Because in order for us to have anything to be viewed, you have to have some kind of what? Movement, right? Frequency. You literally exist in a world that has to continuously be moving. There is nothing that exists that does not move, okay? And so that's the key, is that we are in a constant flow state all the time, right? Which is why we go with the flow. Just stay current. What's a current? An electrical current? Yeah, you got to stay current. This is waves. We call them waves, right? In the ocean, waves. The same thing. Light, energy, frequency. It's all connected. So once you understand the language, once you understand that that's how we talk day to day, even if you're not a spiritual person, these words just sound right. It just makes common sense, right? Thinking and feeling together, enlightenment. When you wake up your third eye, when you see all possibilities, it's because when you're in the dark, you don't see anything. When you're in the dark, you just have thoughts. That's it. It's just void. When you turn the light on, you see all possibilities. Okay? You see the possibilities. And again, that's what? That's you opening up your third eye to see all the I can see clearly now. The rain is gone. Okay. But in this case, it's the darkness, right? So opening up that third eye gives you perspective on things. And when you close that eye, all you're left with is the darkness in your thoughts. Which a lot of people can just say, that's kind of like hell, right? Like the idea of that you're just stuck in eternity in darkness in your thoughts, that's hell. You couldn't appreciate the light that was within you. You couldn't and literally they have a little light bulb turn on when you have an idea. Again, the concept of light work. The concept that light is creation. You know, they say, you know, God spoke and then the universe was there. Well, in a way, kind of, right? Because frequency, voice is light, right? It's all frequency. It's all, at some point, right? You, even like you'll see like some thunder and lightning. And so when the lightning hits, you'll hear thunder, right? The light is literally creating sound. Yeah. They work in tangent together. So really, what am I talking about here? Well, every day you use words and terminology that you don't realize are actually activating spirituality. You're actually and that's the irony in this, is that they've created a system within our language, right? And every time they try to confuse people, they change language, okay? When we change languages, it takes away the power from the people to understand their ancestors. So one of the things that keeps happening, though, because we're human and we have some sort of programming going on, we'll eventually find the same words again. We'll eventually find the same concepts again. Because universal information is always going to exist. This idea that there's no original thought is semi-true, because if reality is just a bunch of parallel universe coexisting at some point because time connects all of them, well, then there is no original thought. That's why when you connect to source, you start realizing we're all just connected. All thoughts have been and all thoughts are. If you have enough universes and you have enough time, everything's been said and done at some point. But in order to see if anything can be created, if anything can be changed, you have to keep creating what? The simulation. The next one. And again, you can change our language a million times, but God is a feeling. And you always got to come up with the word for the way you feel. And that's why these same things will still keep finding their way back. Because ultimately, it's the laws of the universe. And that's how we're made, to understand the laws of the universe. All right, guys, take it easy. I'll see you guys on the next one.